to you, my belief now is that Kenyans have now realized that we are not just fighting Rutoism, you know, a leader who just, and that's it, Rutoism, just someone who is there to serve some other power or some other entities rather than his own people. That's what we're now calling Rutoism. Rutoism. We've baptized it to that. And the fact that people now do realize, our people realize, that's not the only thing that we are fighting. There are systems that, you know, are not going to work even if we were to just change Ruto and just put someone else. That's not the issue. And I think that's very clear now to Kenyans. There is a gentleman called Boni Mwangi. He's been doing really good posts on X here, talking about, really going into details. He's I don't know whether you've come across that, talking about details of auditing, like the county governments. He's done that for Mandera, and today, I don't know whether it's today or yesterday, he did another one for Turkana County, and he's going into details in terms of how the money is used, and it's just, you look at the way he's done it really well, explaining the fact that our priorities in terms of county governments are just so misplaced. We are thinking about, or rather the county governments are sort of prioritizing building houses for the county, for the governor and the deputy or whoever, for millions of shillings, while their people are, you know, languishing in poverty, don't even have food to eat or good schools to go to for their children, but they're building a governor, a mansion, and it's like, excuse me, what are we doing here? So people are being educated, and I thank God for social media, because we would never ever be this privileged through the mainstream media to be talking to each other and to learn from each other like we are doing. And it's, you know, so people have got evidence kwa karatasi, you know, evidence equal, yeah. So yeah, so people are not, and then there was the fact that learned lawyers and the rest of them are up to task, and they're doing their due diligence. And I mean, we had like the Okia Mtata going to court and challenging the finance bill, not just of the last year, but the year before. And as it turns out now, as I joined another space yesterday, they were saying now even Parliament are making noise because they cannot even follow the finance bill, the financial year for the last year but one. They have to go to the Uhuru Parliament, Uhuru Kenyatta. That's the one they have to. So even if, and I think Ruto realizes this, it's not just about him being in power. It's about how is he going to pay the bills? How is he going to run the government while the finance bill has not been passed through Parliament? He can't do it. I don't think he has a choice, is what I'm saying. I don't think so.
Okay, so according to you, you're saying he has no choice but to resign? Is that what you're saying, Wangu?
I think eventually he will have to go, because how can he run not unless we go to become Sri Lanka and the rest of it, and of which probably having Mandamano might be the best thing for him, because then he can say, oh, people have come for me, because I don't see how else he's going to do this. I don't see it.
I also don't see the government, the regime as it stands, working. People are so angry. I think the straw that broke the camel's back was this reinstatement of cabinet secretaries. I think he had done already so much damage by killing civilian. This reject finance bill, it would have been rejected either way. There is so much looting going on that it is so obvious. You look at the power industries. The power industry, nobody knows who's running that industry at the moment. It was bound to collapse either way. So with the killings that came, because they reject finance bill protest, people had already had enough. But now with the reinstatement of cabinet secretaries, the worst of the worst, like Murkamen, who wears expensive belts and just brags on open television, people have just said, okay, we don't want him anymore. And he's not gonna have any choice. But also we witnessed, the tragic events in Gidurai where lives were lost needlessly. And yet those in power dismissed the cries, they were claiming there was only one victim. That is what he said, Mr. Ruto said. But we all watched this footage of the shootings that were going on at night. The police were just shooting and aiming recklessly without, and a boy hit not by one but 8 bullets was just actually brushed off by Mr. Ruto. So I was like, he's digging his own grave. Each and every time he opens his mouth, he is really actually sending himself into exile. And I think it could even happen because Kenyans have the support not only of Kenyans at the moment, but of the entire continent, and then also European countries, the United States. People are even standing with them. And yet NATO, they rely on our mineral resources in order to drive their industries, in order to manufacture anything. But we cannot have a policy or policies in place where everyone just runs the country. And it is a pattern across Africa. Like you mentioned, Sri Lanka, they marched into the palace and took it over. They were very excited. We saw the footage of Sri Lanka's in the palace. So I think prior to Mr. Ruto's regime, many dictators fell. And his behavior really leaves no doubt that this is a dictator. You cannot describe him as anything else because you wouldn't have read history then. He has all mannerisms of a dictator. Also, there were promises made, like I say, during campaigns. Compensation for education and livelihoods were made also right now. He promised to compensate for the families of the fallen heroes of these protests. And we know very well that he's done none of that. On the contrary, I think he's just celebrating the killings and the murders of Kenyans. And it's time. Kenyans have had enough. He's been pushing their buttons. If anything, police should actually be trained in de-escalation policies. But what they're doing is escalating the situation, just adding fuel to fire. And Kenyans are fired up in Langu or Makeri, like you said. Right now, with the education they have, the civic education that has been going on online, it is going to be terrible. It's going to be terrible. I hope for the politicians that they will go for their homes also and take over those homes because they don't deserve to be robbing the wealth they've stolen from Kenyans in their faces. I also asked him about the visa-free entry. Why does he grant visa-free entry? And he said it boosts, the industry, the tourism industry. But prior to that, we had COVID-19, and then came the tourism. Of course, it was supposed to go up. We would see this curve upwards after COVID. So he has made no contribution towards the betterment of the tourism industry. It was expected to go up either way. But what they should be doing, I think, is trying to attract Kenyans to to attract local tourists. So if any tragedy comes, like we had the pandemic, they are not so hard hit. The hardest hit industries are always gastronomy and the hotel industry. But if they plan ahead and try to appeal to the local tourists as opposed to the whatever they call foreigners, I don't know why people constantly say foreigners and let us invite foreign investors, because we can also, if he was a legitimate person and correct and just upward, he would try to attract diaspora and not what they call foreign investors, because we also have the same money they have. We just don't have the conditions, the tough conditions they set, like tough lending conditions, where Africans are not favored as opposed to Europeans. Are They will pay for so many decades and never be debt free. So that is a problem, and I was angry about that. He made the promises, like I said, for improving livelihoods, education, and all those promises are not fulfilled. The visa-free entry is something that really bothered me. Like I said, it is a revenue booster. Europeans would come and pay, I think, something to the extent of $50, like we, all of us diaspora. So paying $50, that goes, as opposed to when they go into the country, there's already so much corruption, and if they don't fight corruption, they're gonna leave anyways. So paying $50 and then with the corruption, the money just goes to the person who owns the club or the hotel. It's not trickling down to the poor people, the impoverished, and that is a problem. So I say revenue generator, visa-free entry, that was a very big problem. And why doesn't he demand the same conditions for Kenyans who travel abroad?